Game 2, same setup, adjustment to space.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
The first game was a travesty because I thought I'd spread out to apply pressure.
All right, so Scott came down this past weekend, and we played an old game that we used to play all the time called Star Wars CCG, SWCCG for short. It was a game manufactured by a company called Decipher,
What I'm gonna do
way back
is
in the
I'm
day,
going
and
to
it was a
pick
really,
the cards up. I'll
really
start with my
good
hands.
strategic card game. So Magic was out at the
All
time.
Destiny draws are
However,
6, unless it's
Magic
never at 0.
had a couple
With 0.
releases, and as far as sets are concerned, I think Star Wars came out as soon as Fallen Empires and Magic came out, and it was a terrible set. Still is a terrible set today, even by old standards of Magic. And Star Wars came out, and it started out just like the movie order.
But they can pay Austin Powers
Well,
Corvette
at the time, that is, which was episode 4, 5, and 6. So the first set we received for Star Wars was basically it was called Premiere, and it kind of touched on all aspects of A New Hope, essentially.
Wow.
So we had Luke, very primitive in Force.
Twice.
Vader being the most powerful dark side character in the game.
2, 4, 6.
Obi-Wan Kenobi at the time was second most powerful in their own right. I mean, you know, and so the game played like this. When you went to a tournament, you chose to be for your first game, or chosen by odds or random order.
You're gonna get a lot of
Light side or dark side. You had to come to a tournament with two decks. You had to have a light side and a dark side deck made. So when you competed, you played your light side or dark side deck first, and then you switched and you played your other deck. And there was a thing called differential, and that was essentially how much you won by. And the game didn't have counters in it or life force per se. The game ended when your opponent essentially had no more cards in the stack of face-down cards that was on the table. And you'll see as we play this game how that shakes down. So any face-up cards you see that are outside of that middle layer, which is the playable area, are essentially lost life. And like I said, the game was over whenever that lost life pile was full of face-up cards, and then the face-down piles, which there were 3 of them, they were manipulated in a certain way, was depleted. You essentially beat your opponent. So what you did then was you counted how many face-down cards you had left, and that determined your differential. So differential was really huge at the time, in the fact that your next placing in the tournament, sometimes if you were tied with a win with someone else, and sometimes we competed in tournaments that were, I think the biggest one we ever competed in at the time was around 150 players, and we competed in those multiple times. And between Scott and my friend Nathan and myself in Kentucky for a long time,
Look at that. Draw the fire.
we had kind of the highest ranking in the state. Now, there were a lot of other really good players in the state that played with us,
Is that the one,
including in our own little city.
But it's
So
for both
between
of us. Like
Lexington
right now,
and
you don't know if
Louisville,
I'm gonna
we
answer.
probably had
Oh,
we had the top 10 in the state. I don't even know if any other
So right now,
county
like I
in the
held it in my
state
hand,
had
so I
any
knew I wanted to
ranking in
answer
the
that
top 10.
because I just don't know how this is gonna go.
So that, for what it's worth. And so what essentially happened was the Louisville, Lexington crew in Kentucky was pretty well known as far as being competitors in any tournament that we went to. And we competed in tournaments in North Carolina.
Why?
We competed in tournaments in Chicago, Wisconsin, Ohio, Tennessee. We were traveling, anywhere from Kentucky, 2 or 3
It's
states
only one shot on
surrounding
two pulls.
at any given time, depending on where the tournament was. And so it was always known that that Lexington, Louisville, and Kentucky had a group to be aware of and watch out for. Knoxville had a few really good players that you had to watch out for. I can't remember on the West Coast how
It's
far
probably stupid,
they
'cause I don't
came
have to do
over
this,
to,
but-
to compete
wow.
on the East Coast.
Okay.
But they did play over there.
Jack, I'm gonna put down 3 guys.
I think
Oops.
Nashville might have had one.
The draw the first.
That's so weird 'cause you
Chicago,
have, like,
oh,
this
New
one.
York had a few that were really good too. And the age ranges were anywhere between, at the time we played, were anywhere between ages, as far as, notable tournament
I'll go shoot
um,
'cause he's easier to do.
expertise
Mine- mine's
and
They're the same.
No,
competitiveness
armor.
ranged from
Anyway,
ages, I want to say like
Oh, I
13
can't believe
to
2 just got
30
And then,
was essentially who you could be competing with. So that's kind of how,
I'm going to
why we
target
played,
master
because it was a good strategic game. It didn't rely a lot on just sheer luck.
Oh, you need to
However,
go to 60
sometimes at
dollars.
the beginning of the game it did rely on luck.
So you're okay?
But as you got better in the game, you kind of figured out how you could manipulate the
What's
luck
that?
I mean, you
in
said that.
in counting
It's,
cards, and that was
about
completely a legal move to do, because it was so difficult to do, because your face down pile was changing around so much and being manipulated so much,
You're pulling from
and
your-
they actually had cards to kind of prevent people from counting, but only if the other player got that card to play it and were aware that counting was a thing and you needed
Now I'm
to
drawing.
be prepared for it. So anyway,
What?
for whatever reason,
Yeah.
whenever I finished playing this game and moved on to something else at the time, I think it was at the time it was Mage Knight that came
No,
out.
he's
I moved from Star Wars
He's there.
into Mage Knight, and
This is when people are lying.
for whatever reason, I kept my last 2 tournament
So we basically
Decks,
just lose the
built. I never disassembled them,
force.
and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because if I went in today and tried to build one of these decks, I couldn't do it. I mean, I would not remember, a fraction of the cards that we did back then. And back then, we pretty much had every one of them memorized and what they did. We knew what's called the meta in the tournament at the time, and it changed based on every card release, every set release. It changed based on the fact that somebody would find a winning combo, and you had to be ready for that and make sure you had cards in there to defend against it, or just flat out outpace it. So that was a strategy you could use. But I remember this light side deck, which I'm on the left in the blue long sleeve shirt. I was playing light side, and this deck was called. There was an objective that was released kind of middle way through this set.
Just because.
Not even towards the end, but towards the end, cards came out that made that objective more powerful and better to use. So it was called. You will either profit by this on the front side, and when you flipped it, I think the other side was called, or you will be destroyed. And essentially, it was called Profit. That was the deck art theme name for short. Light side used to have one called Hunt Down and Destroy the Jedi that was really good against Profit, but over time and over set releasing, and new themes came out, new meta came out for tournaments. That Hunt Down deck kind of didn't do as well against this other deck called Echo Base Operations, and so I changed my my dark side deck up to just be a general, all-encompassing ground and space control power deck, and that was
That's the only reason it was scary not to do it.
good.
It comes down.
But
Okay.
in the fact that it wouldn't get beat that often, and if it did, it would get beat by very low
But
differential.
still, like,
But it's bad.
you've
So,
got 2 aliens down there for free.
however,
What
as
2
Scott and I
aliens could
played
handle
this
that?
past weekend on Sunday,
But
he
those-
realized
I think
that
those are the 2
it
you put down.
still was not
It's
a
like,
really.
what
It was
do
a
you do?
good matchup for Profit,
2
but
aliens versus
it
Luke,
never
he's gonna cut
won.
one, and then
So
you're
Scott's
dead.
playing the dark side now.
Yeah,
This
I
was
forgot. And Luke
the game
for
you're
free,
watching
since
now.
this deck wasn't done.
Is our third game, or fourth even, and every time, and we would swap decks out. I would give him the light side, he'd give me the dark side. Every time up until this point, dark side has not
back.
won at all. So I'll explain kind of the game mechanics here coming up in just a second. I'll throw it back over to the regular game for a few seconds.
Oh, draining for 2.
You don't try. Oh, you drain.
Drain. Still don't like this. I don't think I realized that when I was playing it last time.
What?
They needed points for free. That's so stupid. Like
The
why?
first game I got one for free.
No, when I played it, I don't think I remembered that he would do that. I put him somewhere else, but I don't know if I would remember. That's so crazy. Like that deck wasn't stupid enough.
Mm-hmm.
And bouncing him and stuff. Like my god.
Yup.
So what you'll see here
You lose that.
as we go through the game, I'll explain a little bit.
Stick that bad?
You'll see
Oh, I got a stick, so.
where my hand's at now.
What did you get?
Luke Skywalker, he's got his lightsaber equipped.
Stick or Obi-Wan
He
would
is a
probably
specific
go.
Tatooine version of
Wait,
Luke
so you want me to
Skywalker.
get a stick?
To the
No,
to
that's
the
my
left
house.
of him, or to the top of the
that's
screen.
what I was
You
like.
drain me for 2
Han is
Yeah.
frozen in carbonite
Sorry,
underneath that.
I didn't realize you were
What's
still
called a
losing.
site
I was like,
location.
wait, why are you playing
And then on
games?
Scott's
Is
side,
that your turn?
he has Boba Fett and Shizor
Completely
kinda
out of
guarding
order.
Han Solo.
Everything.
And so what I'm doing now is what's called activating force.
No drain.
So that's my force pile I got my hand on. My deck, or my hand is in my hand itself. I'm looking through my options,
Vision.
playing a lot
Get it.
slower than I
Card
used
of the
to.
day.
It's so
I
good.
wish I would have showed the hand up close when we were playing, but I think I might have played maybe a tunnel vision there, which allows me to go into my force pile and basically get any card. So it seems pretty powerful, but you can only go into how much force you activated. So it was good, kind of mid-game card to play. I'm probably looking for another support character to come down with Luke, or I'm looking for a way to get Luke over to battle Boba Fett and Shizor. There was a card that allowed you to do that outside of the move phase, which was the end of the phase, and it was after battle. So a lot of times in the game, you moved and you kind of just had to sit there and wait for the other turn or the other opponent to take their turn into the battle phase if they had enough power and thought they could win the battle, which could result in a lot of lost life force from the opponent. Otherwise, you had to find a way to manipulate your characters to the other site to battle before the move phase. So that's probably what I'm looking for here, if I'm looking for anything. If not, maybe just some more support. The good thing about Prophet deck on the light side, there was no reason to rush to get Han released, because
What'd you get?
when you got Han released and you flip the objective, you immediately retrieve 10 force. So essentially, you got, Darkseid had to make you start losing cards, and you had, at the minimum, you had 5 turns, in my opinion, to lose force and to get ready for, you were pretty much guaranteed to get Han out of Carbonite and retrieve your lost life. So anybody that kind of jumped the gun with Prophet, unless you just had a massive, just great opening hand, you could come down and do it first turn, and kind of have control of the game after that. That would be the exception. And I think even in this game we played, I think I open-handed with Luke and his lightsaber, which typically meant like big trouble for her Darkseid opening hand.
Look for Ben, you don't right?
Yeah, but like light side doesn't.
But for whatever reason, and we may have battled. I
I
missed.
think so.
I
Not just
kind
like
of
because of Jedi.
didn't pay attention when I was commentating over how the game was played. But there's me using force out of the force pile. I deployed some
I think so.
character. I'm not even sure. Can't really tell who it is right now with it in Scott's hand there.
I ain't
See if
scared.
he puts it down if I can recognize it. Oh, it looks like Lando with Vibroaxe. So he was a really good character too on Tatooine to get Han released. So yeah, I had to go to my move phase, and I didn't have a way to get him over there, so I simply just moved Luke over. and at the end of your turn, you were allowed to draw cards up from your force pile. Sometimes you would draw them all up, and sometimes it was best not to, because sometimes cards could be played on your opponent's turn, but they cost you force pile or force to use some 1 or 2 to use and play the card. Plus, the dark side and light side both have ways to manipulate that to make sure you did not have that force, which sometimes ultimately proved a win in the game. If you were waiting to play a card that required a force to be used, and then the dark side took it away from you, or the opponent took it away from you, that was a bad day for your opponent, because essentially you ruined all of their plans to defend what they wanted and what they had up their sleeve. So that was those were always good learning experiences and something to prepare for and never do again. So typically the best strategy was to leave 1, 2, or 3, especially in the beginning of the game, force ready to be played, because of how they can manipulate the force and prevent you from playing some things from your hand. So yeah, we'll kind of sit around here for a little bit. I'll pop back in whenever something's going on, but clearly I'm reading my effects over here, the red cards, because I don't remember all of them, to see what my options are, and I'll come back in if ever there was something that was worthwhile, notable to be mentioned. So rightfully so, Boba Fett and Shizor moved away from the battle from Luke and Lando. It's not a really good matchup. Luke and Lando, especially with Luke's lightsaber, would absolutely destroy them too. So, but at the same time, Scott is generating control of a system in space with a big starship and an alien on board flying that. So he will be able to make me lose some force up in space, which is the location that's oriented differently than the sites where Luke and Han and Lando were. There were 2 ways you could fight in this game. You could fight in space in ships, or you could fight on the ground via characters or some kind of ground ship vehicle. That's what they were called. And then some of the other places you put out on the board just to do what's called generating force. You really didn't put anybody at those locations, because there was no benefit in doing that.
Oh, it's just audio.
So yeah, I'm reading something about profit here, probably to see if I can squeeze out some cheaper ways to get some characters out of my hand. More than likely is what I'm reading this for, because I don't have it all memorized anymore. It's been, we haven't played this game. We probably have not played this game in over 17 years. So getting back into this after 17 years it took a few games to remember even all the mechanics, but it came back pretty quick. I was actually really surprised how well we were going by game 4 or 5. It was kind of almost like we never stopped playing it, except for memorizing all of those small pieces of the text and some of the cards and systems that completely forgot about.
Well, since you're draining, move over.
Okay. Move over, Red Rover.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Drain for 2. Bye, Felicia. Where's your arm? It's so dumb. Like, why not let me draw train an audience chamber? I mean, I know it sucks. They're starting with aliens, but
For a while, you just keep stacking up. And
that deck is so strong. I guess, but like, I mean, that's the risk you take. Like, you should have to eat the 2 damage, considering.
Mm-hmm. That it?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
And I drained you last time, I think, right?
Yep. You got me.
Bam.
Anything?
He doesn't do anything, right? He just draws a destiny.
Yes, he has 6 now.
So, pretty notable character I just deployed there called Ben. And Ben Kenobi, well, not Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Ben Kenobi. He basically brought people right back into to life if they got had to be forfeited from the battle. So he was really good for profit in the fact that if Han got shot or sliced by Vader, he would just bring him back, and therefore your objective kind of stayed on the table and had all of its benefits. Objectives were really good. So I deployed Ben directly to the site, even though he had two pretty high-powered aliens on the site already. I'm obviously, taking some loss from the space training he's been doing. So I'm looking for a way now to go ahead and start strategizing and releasing Han and getting that life force back.
This is
And probably trying to figure out how I can do a battle.
And then that's what you
Ben, he could do really well against him too by himself if he had his lightsaber, but just without his lightsaber, without a weapon, it'd be I'd have to make sure, or light side would have to make sure they were tracking a high destiny draw in order to get rid of both of those characters. So I didn't have anything, so I'm just moving Lando over. Luke can take care of himself on that site by himself, so no risk there. Not much, that is. I mean, he is generating a lot of force, so he could come down with like Vader, or maybe a Tarkin or somebody. I remember one time I was playing another guy in Kentucky that was really good, Matt Clemens. I was playing my prophet. He was playing some version of Darkseid on Tatooine as well. And I think it was set up in the audience chamber. And I just remember, oh my gosh, I could not get Han released no matter what I did. And I had everybody I could throw at it. I had Leia, Chewie, Lando, Ben, Luke, and he had all of the dark side stuff that from the movies, Jabba, Fett, not really Shizor. Shizor come from the books. Just some of those other people. Tarkin might have been there, and I think he had all aliens. It was basically all aliens from Tatooine, and they all had so many different small little pluses and minuses and things that negated. And last time main characters did not stand a chance against these little no names from Tatooine, and that was probably one of the worst experiences I had playing Prophet against a dark side deck that was sitting on Tatooine, because it just took me completely by surprise, because I had read all of those little aliens before and some of the things they could do, and I just remember I think I just had to abandon Han at that point. It was so bad. It was just he was not getting released, and to release Han you had to control the site, which means you had to have no one on the opposing team at that site like you see now. where Luke is by himself on the left and there's nobody opposing him on that site to the right. Essentially, I could release Han if he was there, but since that was not the case, Han stayed frozen, or stays frozen now. And that was the case after many turns with Matt. I could not get control of that site, and it was not going anywhere fast. So I ended up, just bailing out on Han and changing strategies altogether. And I'm not sure how that game played out in the end, but I just know it was not a fun time for last side. So what you just saw there was a catching of a card. Sometimes cards got really overly used in a game, and it would turn the game for yourself as far as winning is concerned. And so there were cards that were short called catch cards, and so basically it froze it out of the game. So once the card was caught, you couldn't play it anymore. And if you did have another one in your hand, you could play it one more time, but it got caught as well. So it was a way to get rid of these overly abused copies of cards in your deck. And I think in Star Wars, this is funny, I don't remember this. I think it was the same as Magic, where you could have. No, actually, in Star Wars it wasn't. You could have as many cards as you wanted of the same name in your deck. So catch cards were pretty important, because if you had one of these wonky decks, like a bunch of stormtroopers in like 12 in your deck, or you had a bunch of speeders. Not that they got played the same way and could get caught, but there were other cards that would let you play against your opponent and get rid of those out of your hand if you had copies of them in your hand. And if you were playing with a bunch of interrupts or instances, you would catch them, just like Scott caught that instance I played just now. So it was a way to get rid of it. I'm not sure what he caught there. I can't tell on the table, but it was obviously enough to
define fun, Katie.
he wanted to get it out of the game.
Fun
And I think I've got his
battle.
Imperial Barrier card caught on my side, because that card was kind of hard to get around to. It could change the way that a battle played out, or could potentially be played out. And the fact that you thought you were going to come down to battle with 5 characters, you only got to do 4 because he barriered one of them. So you had to make a decision. You stay there, or do you reinforce, and you go ahead and go for it, even though you didn't get your 5th character in there.
By the way my draws go, I always used to go for the lowest. What does Forlom do? He does some kind of adding to it.
He doesn't do it.
So one most important part of this game now, as I was talking about the catch cards, is I found a way to get Luke over to the site where all the people were. All the dark side people were Ben and Lando were. So now Luke's over there with them. So we're getting ready. And these were the fun games when they were really interactive. And you had a lot of good battles going on, even if they weren't 4 or 5 on each side. Even if you had just 1 or 2 good battles in the game, those, in my opinion, were the most fun games that were out there. There were a lot of games that were played in Star Wars where you didn't really interact, and I didn't really like those that much. So I just tried to swing at somebody, and I drew a location card. You saw me kind of flip it down real fast. That meant I drew a 0. The locations were always 0, so I probably missed that character. And in this deck in Prophet, I always went for the lowest armor or ability when I was shooting at someone or swinging at someone with a lightsaber, because the Destiny draws were really low in this deck, unless you were stacking. So I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Oh, it looks like I initiated battle. So I had a card on the table that allowed me to retrieve a force when I did. So I guess what I did, I nabbered and I tried to swing on somebody with a special card outside of battle. So now I just initiated battle, and we'll be able to see.
If a battle was just initiated outside.
Okay, I'm trying to what's called friendly fire.
Draw Destiny.
Basically, I had to draw a number value less than the number of characters he had on his side of the table, and if I did that, one of those characters at his choosing was shot by their own people. And it was a random chance in this battle to get rid of one of those characters. And getting rid of any of those characters would have been great for me in this case.
So draw 3.
So he's reading. It wasn't a card that was played a lot because of the randomness of the draw, but it was good in this Prophet deck because my Destiny draws were so low. Typically, I drew small numbers, so that's why I had probably had it in there if I was going back and looking. So it
So no, that's I'm okay.
exceeded
I'm
the amount.
okay.
I keep.
And you saw me kind of
This
flip it
game
down
is
again.
this is how
Yeah,
you-
he's happy about that. So nothing
Yeah,
happened.
You draw everything
Yeah, and
you don't need.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this.
clearly.
So my turn.
Nothing happens
Yeah.
as far as
No,
that
nothing
card
happened.
was concerned. So far, two plans that could have been catastrophic for
Well,
dark
be
side
my
have
best
failed
to exclude
the
since,
light side in this game.
I don't want your text to
So
go.
we're still in the battle phase.
Lando
We're
on
still going in. Now we go into what's called the weapons phase of the
So-
battle.
Yeah, we'll do all the
And
math. We
the-
draw the
again,
destiny card.
since I initiated, I get the first chance. Or he's doing something.
How'd we do,
I
though?
can't remember
You're
So
at 8.
why I didn't swing
It's-
first
but
there,
it's
but
that character though, right? When it's a, yeah,
he's
permanent weapon
probably
without
doing-
ranks, we target both players draw destiny.
he's probably.
It's target excluded if your
Oh
destiny.
no, I think I
That's
targeted
four,
first.
so
I
mine's
targeted with
Mhm.
Lando,
Six
so that
or
was my
eight.
targeting.
'Cause
So I'm
I get
reading
my
the card
power,
now.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
I
it's
think
split.
he compared the Destiny draw +4 to whatever
Four.
character he was,
It's greater than target's power, so it's not
fighting.
target's power.
and I think Scott drew a 6. So I think we ended up
I just,
tying there.
this is not working out.
Like,
the way
so
it's
again, third time in this
It's
battle,
undefeated. This is how you
like
do
nothing
profit.
worked out
It's
with the
not
dark
you,
side
it's
so
me.
far. He's
So-
still
Yeah.
in this,
Lando's still
in
it,
this
though.
battle.
Where'd he go?
Yeah.
potentially
Where'd he go?
could have been really
I
bad
was like, okay,
for, and I messed up,
So-
but Lando out of the game.
what's Master Luke gonna
For whatever
do?
reason, I just messed that up.
He just
also
deploys.
going to.
But it could have been really bad for dark side so far, but it just wasn't. It was
And he's gonna
the,
put
the
something
odds
back in my
and
hand.
the luck factor, the random
I don't
factor
want to.
was
I don't care, Ben can revive
full
it.
effect right now, and the fact that it was not doing anything for me in this game. Nothing was being drawn that I had planned as far as the destiny draws were concerned. The luck component of the game, I didn't have the ability to
He's less
track
than
yet
five,
because we're still
Tristan.
mid
He's
game.
what? Less than what?
5, 4.
4.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just kind of going over the
4 about.
used to when we played this. We
Ability's
didn't have to
five,
read these
ability's
cards.
three.
We knew exactly what was going to go down. But since it had been so long, we had to kind of brush up on some of the
I
text.
don't want Luke to exclude people, so
I'm going for him.
no. So you just can't use it. Like there's no drawing. That's what's great about that. Like it's just like
Yeah, and I couldn't remember what Forlom did either. Forlom's the bounty hunter
All
there,
right. Well, I'm swinging.
and he's I think he's going
I gotta
back
get rid of him.
and
Swing
firing
Forlom.
with him right now.
Forlom?
I get a 3. Hit finally. Look at that.
Or I'm swinging at
Nice to get
somebody. Yeah, so I hit Forlom,
back.
so that was good.
no.
So Forlom's hit by some saber swing that I did, probably Luke. Doesn't mean he's out of the battle yet, though. It just means he has to be forfeited at the end of the battle. He still gets to use Forlom and do his text, which is kind of nice. So he tried to either shoot somebody there
Fet? Okay.
with Fet or do some kind of other destiny draw.
Same thing as 0, right?
Hmm?
Makes it a 0. Hitting 0.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
what's
but
on
he
it.
missed.
I can't
Oh, he missed
hear
it.
this game right now the way my speakers are set up. I'm doing commentation with no audio overlay
Ben at
from the game itself, so I'm just kind of looking at the cards, trying to figure out what we're doing.
Gizor's
3. Yeah, because I can't draw today.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I'm swinging it.
Barely.
Looks like Shizor probably hit him too, so he's turned sideways and over there.
All right.
So that is 2 that has to be forfeited
He can't revive himself,
just because they're hit.
Cannot.
Now he's going to come back and swing at somebody with Vader. That's the 2. Lightsabers had 2 destiny draws for targeting.
I just got one
And
left.
then now we're both drawing what's called Battle Destiny at the end. I was really low to 1. I think he was out of 3 or 4 there.
right? He's immune.
So he had to lose somebody else from that site in addition to the 2 that were hit. When you're hit, your what's called attrition was 0. And so now, since he had to lose 1 more in attrition, and no one was immune to it there, he had to lose 1 more from that site. So he's choosing to lose Fett, rightfully so, since Vader's the more powerful character on that site.
Since I owe you,
So ultimately, it
oh, you only drew
still worked
one.
out for light side in the end. And that just shows how powerful Prophet could be, even though, I had 3
Somebody has to stay.
chances to wipe out 3 characters pre-battle and just kind of do what was called a beatdown on Vader. I wasn't even able to do that, and
Even with all the bad
still
draws.
pretty much cleared the site minus Vader.
Right side, versus-
And that Vader was good in the fact that he had a weapon included with him, but he was bad in the fact that he did not have any immunity to the attrition draws. So he could stay there. So when you're looking at, even though Vader's really super powerful, when you're looking at Vader against 2 or 3 what's called light side mains on a site, It's still
Did
not
you
good
Take the
situation,
time to count that out for all your draws. You
especially when you're up against
That's a
two
lot.
other lightsabers characters swinging at him.
It's like 10 draws.
Still could have been really bad. So my turn is over. I'm drawing up into my hand, and to go over to his Scott's turn.
And you might think, no, you didn't because I had the one, but I did. I didn't need it.
What do you mean? I
'Cause
believe you.
No, exclude Luke. I should have been drawn another desk in there, but
I don't know what you're talking about. You said it. I believe him. He doesn't have to prove himself.
that had to go on the record. Eight. 9. 10. 11.
Turn for 2. Reinforcement. Put him down for 3. Move him for 1. Damage 1.
So Scott, there on his turn, decided to reinforce in space, which was really smart. It was very difficult for the dark side to lose in space, especially if you got 2 Star Destroyers up there like he has now, with some pilots on the board, because there was not really a good way that light side had to destroy those starships and make dark side lose a lot of force. You could get rid of the ships, but typically space was dominated by dark side because they had really powerful ships in space. If light side was ever powerful in space, it typically required you to not have some of your mains on the site. So like Han and Chewie and Falcon would be fantastic in space, but that means they're not doing anything at the sites outside the ship either. As you can see there, I've chosen to free Han, and you saw me get my 10 life back, and essentially now is, again, Prophet was so terrible, and terrible for the opponent, that is. I am back in the situation I was first turn of the game. I've only essentially lost my starting interrupt, which you lose when you choose to play and get some effects out. And so all of the damage and force drains I took up until this point has been negated. They're back in my life force, and now light side has a huge swing as far as life force is concerned against dark side. Scott also had to move Vader away from the site because of that beatdown that was coming. Like I said, Vader's good, but he's not good against all that was on opposing him. And there was nothing he could reinforce in this deck. So there, I've deployed undercover spy Leia on his side of the table, and that will come into play for Prophet to help me move around a little bit and not get drained and kind of spread my damage out a little bit, which is essentially what Prophet did. Was he wanted to have Luke, Leia, Han, and Lando on different locations, so they are causing damage to the dark side as the game's being played. I wasn't messing around. I kept reinforcing that situation. Again, bringing some of my powerful people over against Vader. Definitely taking Luke. He's hard to be hit. Definitely taking Ben, and then I'll pop Leia out from undercover, keep her, Lando, and Han there protected in the audience chamber, and still a really good situation for light side at this time.
Seven, 8, 9.
How many? Would you just draw 2 Battle Destiny there? Here.
I don't even know if I get 2 or not.
Doesn't, I'm assuming Chu and Han together do something.
No. They as to the power of 185, he was more in the ship. In the Falcon. Yeah, I just get 1 destiny.
Okay. And you just get to like try to slice him.
Yeah, I got slicing. Chewie can also I think his is choking. Once per turn, may target opponent's character of the same side who has a power less than 4. And cancel target's game text for remainder of turn. So it's just anything less than powerful. Lando gets excludes. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Lando excludes an alien.
Yeah. Or it's anybody. Isn't it? Yeah, it's just anybody.
Is it? Oh, okay. Why is Lando an alien? Oh, because he wasn't.
Because he was in the
Whatever. Okay. Cool.
10. 11. 12, why not?
Why not? I have more power here. 12 versus like,
Yeah, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16.
Yeah. So you got less power over here.
Yeah.
2 swings. Okay.
And a revive and a choke.
What?
Or a bounce.
No. Yeah. Go ahead, bounce him.
No!
He's the one that knows aliens.
Oh, yes, you're right. It is just alien.
But you're not going to bounce him. So. Strength of 3. Finally got the guy down. Took you long enough. Alright, we're going to go this way. 13's down there and 0's down here.
Off the top. How much? 3?
3.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, get them zeros out. Drew enough of them. Pick your poison, Vader. Not there.
How do I do this? Thinking I haven't do it. Alright, let me draw. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What was that? I did not count that at the time, but I decided it.
Alright.
So 1 for each for profit.
Dreadnoughts. And for strike, because we're not in shitty battles.
Drain 2 here.
And, that's a fun one.
Actually, I'm gonna count this out now. I'm gonna fade one more. Okay. Or Marco. Just gonna add a little insult to injury.
Okay.
He does the 2 if you lose.
Or not.
I should have done this earlier. Television.
You can look through that stuff too.
Hmm.
You can look through your file too.
That's good. I messed up. No, because you've already played your. That changes the whole thing.
Oh.
It's all or nothing now. Because you are spread out. I'm gonna never. No. you got your Clint 0 if you have it.
Or what?
Your
So I
Nabram
can't
0.
count on
Oh yeah.
2 hands how many times games have been won with what's about to happen right now, which is
There's nothing I can do. Like,
again a way
I
to
guess I
get
could have fought you.
a bunch of characters from one site to another outside of the move phase. On the light side, it was called Nabram leads. So I was now able to reinforce.
I just went and got the
Not only
I didn't have
was
it.
Vader not in a good situation to begin with against Ben and Luke,
Should we do it?
but now it's even worse because he's got Han, Leia with another saber, Lando with his axe, which is not going to do anything
Go ahead, just to
against
make sure.
Vader. Got another little just jank alien coming down for I don't know why, just to add some more insult to the battle.
I know what it was. I didn't think about the Nabran. I had
Not
the
really what
barrier.
he's designed to
I
do,
didn't think
but I
about
had
your
him in
Nabran.
hand,
I
had
had
the
the
force
barrier.
to deploy him.
And I was
And,
drawing.
So essentially, this is
Good enough for
what
the barrier
that
and hoping that I
Scott
would
was
get
trying to
it.
avoid there early on
And I
was a beatdown. This would be the light side beatdown.
just fought.
You have all these mains and toys. Toys meant like weapons.
Still, but even if I did that, like I'm still
So
gonna drink me for
he's
5
got three lightsaber swings coming at him.
profit.
So I'm going to initiate battle, get the retrieval force, make him immediately lose one because of my effect on the table. Yeah, we're going to go into this battle.
Who dat?
These battles most likely ended after they were resolved would end the game because there would be such a
Sorry.
large amount of life lost
Hey,
for
what's
the
up?
opponent whenever they were getting beat down. And this came in all kinds of
What's
different forms. Darkseid had one with a bunch of stormtroopers at one
Yeah,
point, which
right,
was really fun to
rebels.
play. And Lightside had one with a bunch of what's called
Okay.
speeder bikes. There were snow speeders and there were speeder, or not
You're gonna send me a video of you doing it?
speeder bikes. I think they were called speeders and snow speeders, I think. And one had
That is
Higher
fun.
Destiny, and they were like a special card that
Why
came
did
in one of
it
these little pre
come out
fabbed
now,
packs, and that resulted in major beatdown
so
for
random. Which song?
against Darkseid at one point in time.
Yeah,
Those decks were more
yeah.
gimmicky than what's about to happen now, and the fact that they relied on like multiple
That's the
copies,
one
and if
where,
you had that card
Akon
played
drove
against
up,
you that got
flew
rid of
up
multiple
from
copies in
Florida
your
to
hand,
Detroit
you essentially got beat because
to find Eminem.
it was just hard to
I didn't
recover
even know. He
from
was,
that
decently
situation.
popular,
So
but
it
he
never
wanted to do a
was
song with Eminem,
my particular
and he
style to
went
play
to-
those
he went to Detroit,
decks. But at the same time, you had to watch out for them because they would come from out of nowhere.
to find people that
You
might
go up in
know
these
Eminem,
tournaments, and
to get
especially out of
linked
your
up with
city,
Eminem.
and you're playing against
Yeah.
people you don't play against, and maybe they've never played in a tournament. They play their own little play group. They play these weird decks. You would think, they're not going to win they're not going to win the tournament. But they'll certainly beat you if you're not ready for them. And that was the beauty sometimes of tournaments. Is you never ever knew what to expect. You had to be You had to play smart, be ready for everything. Don't get greedy. Fortify sites.
I got in a
Count
bad situation early on.
Therefore, see how much they can possibly do to you from the unknown. And
You couldn't have. Remember after
yeah,
the-
those were sometimes
the very first fight.
fun games.
Couldn't get rid of both.
I had a kid one time
On the first fight.
play a card on
You
me.
could have.
He had no idea what it
It
did,
was so bad because
and, this was in a tournament locally. and
I lose
you
2-4s.
Oh, I see.
he essentially
Sorry, Fet
had
then. Said loses.
Vader against
Yeah, because
Ben,
you bounce easily.
and I didn't have
And then
a
Fet's there. It's like, oh,
a
you
lightsaber
lose.
in my hand,
I
and
lost
his
on the
did,
top. I
and he
lost
played
on
this
the-
card.
Because I shouldn't have been.
And to lose a character from a site didn't mean it was over for that character. It just meant he was kind of like forced into
Say that.
Okay.
back into the life force until you got to fish for another copy of it and bring him back out. And that was just, typical battle. You forfeited him. However, there were cards that said,
I'm gonna target.
once
Ben.
this happens, remove him from the game. Which meant if he did lose that battle or get removed somehow with a card, and you did find him later, it
What's
didn't
so
matter.
stupid about
He
this
could not be put on the board
His
again. So this
blaster
kid
deflects.
played one of those cards against
His
my
blaster
Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he was like, "What do I do here with this?" And I just simply picked up my Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I moved him off of the table,
No
and I
surprise
said,
there.
"That's what happens. Ben can no longer be played." And he was like, "What?" And I was like,
Nothing happens with
"Yeah,
power.
that's what that card means." So it was funny. He had it in his deck. He had no, I guess somebody told him to put it in there, and he had no idea what it did. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect this kid, and I say kid, he's probably only like 5 years younger than me, but to have that card and play it against me. So I was kind of playing not real cautious at all, and it almost really backfired on me. I think I still won that game
Okay, 7.
from a local tournament perspective, but that could have been like just a loss for me for playing just kind of a callous and not really paying attention to what potentially could have been played, especially the deck he was playing too.
11.
Anyway, that was funny. So yeah, we're counting up basically all of our power against each other, and whatever the difference was in that power is when the beatdown effect happens.
3.
He had to
4,
lose
5,
the
6,
difference in the two powers after he lost Vader, and you can see him kind of looking at his life force. He's asking me, my lost pile compared to his lost pile,
2,
and I think at this point we just
7,
decided
oh,
you know,
2,
that,
5, 7,
there's no really coming back for Darkseid at this point.
3.
And again, and overall we played 6 games. I played 3 dark, he played 3 dark, I played 3 light, he played 3 light, and Darkseid never won a single game the
I
whole
don't know what you
weekend.
do,
So
Justin.
it was just this game we decided to record was the light side on my end. It was the longest game we played, and it was fun. So we'll probably do it again when he comes down next time. Hope you all enjoyed. Whoever didn't know about Star Wars or hadn't seen it in a while, hope it brought back some good memories.
No, I do not have any ideas.
It's gonna be a cage shenanigan.
I have no ideas.